I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I would have rearranged his smile into something Picasso might have painted. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife, Ashley, had asked me to meet her at a restaurant for a serious talk. I thought maybe she was finally ready to work on our marriage. I was wrong. When I walked in, she was already seated. And not alone. Sitting beside her was Chase Donovan, her colleague. You know the type. Tight black shirt, slick grin, like he was auditioning for a protein shake commercial. Ashley's hand rested far too close to his thigh. She laughed too loudly at his dumb jokes, the kind of laugh she hadn't given me in years. "Logan," she said sweetly, motioning to the seat across from them. "This is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." Oh, I'd heard. Too often. The mentor. The inspiration. The guy who just gets her. I sat down, forcing a smile. Under the table, my fists were already clenched. Chase leaned forward, locking eyes with me. "I'll make this simple," he said, voice smooth, calculated. "You've got two options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Ashley didn't flinch. She smiled. Smiled. I repeated his words in my head. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. He thought I'd crawl away, hand him the keys to my life like a valet ticket. Instead, I leaned forward, smiled right back, and said, "You want your teeth whole, or in pieces?" The air froze. Ashley's smile faltered for the first time. Chase blinked, clearly not expecting pushback. I didn't swing, didn't need to. The words were enough. A warning. Ashley hissed under her breath. "You're embarrassing me." That's when I knew. This dinner wasn't about saving anything. It was a stage play. She wanted me to be the villain while she walked off into the sunset with her gym rat coworker. But here's the thing about me. I don't play the role written for me. I write my own. So I sat back, calm as stone, and said, "Ashley, enjoy your meal. You'll need the energy." She raised an eyebrow. "For what?" I smiled. "For what's coming." And with that, I stood up, left the restaurant, and walked straight into the cold night. My knuckles itched, my pride burned, but my mind was clear. She thought she had me cornered. She thought she was one move ahead. She didn't realize I'd already been playing my own game. When I got home that night, the place felt wrong. Not in the way a house feels after a fight. No, more like stepping onto a stage after the play's over. Same set, same props, but the story's already been told, and you're just wandering through the leftovers. Her perfume lingered in the hallway. Not the usual kind. Stronger, muskier, expensive, the kind you wear for someone else. I walked into our bedroom. The bed was perfectly made, corners tucked so tight it looked like a hotel room. Ashley never made the bed like that. I sat on the edge, palms still red from clenching at dinner, mind buzzing like a nest of hornets. Chase's smug face. Ashley's smile. And that line, "Leave quietly or face me like a man." My phone buzzed. A message from Ashley. "Ashley, you didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Let's talk." Just blame. Cold. Detached. That was the flip of the switch. I wasn't suspicious anymore. I knew. I just needed the proof in my hands. So I started searching. Not in anger. Systematically, like a man checking blueprints. Closet first. Nothing obvious. Then the vanity. Her tablet sat there. She never locked it. Thought I trusted her too much for that. She was wrong. I opened it. The first photo hit me like a hammer to the ribs. Ashley, in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Barely dressed. Date stamped last weekend. She'd told me she was at her friend Lacey's baby shower in Sacramento. One swipe later, there he was. Chase. Shirtless. Brushing his teeth in the background. My chest tightened. My breathing went shallow. Then came the messages. Voice notes. His deep tone calling her my little secret. Her giggling like a schoolgirl. At one point, she even called him daddy. I almost smashed the tablet through the wall. But I didn't. I sat. I read. I listened. Every message. Every photo. I took screenshots. Backed them up. Dated. Sorted. Filed. Because men like me don't break. We build. And when we're done, we build a cage for the people who try to make us small. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen like nothing happened. Hair tied up, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone like I didn't exist. I slid the tablet across the table to her. Open on the messages. Her fingers froze. "What's this?" she asked. "You tell me," I said. She stared at the screen, then at me. No apology. No denial. Just one line. "Why were you snooping through my stuff?" And right there, I knew two things for certain. She thought I was weak. She was about to find out exactly how wrong she was. She didn't even flinch. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. She just leaned back in her chair, sipped her coffee, and smirked like a prosecutor who thought the case was already won. "You're overreacting," Ashley said. "It's not what it looks like." I tapped the tablet screen. Chase's abs, her smile, a caption. "Can't wait for round two, my secret." "Not what it looks like." I asked. "So what does it look like?" She shrugged, as if the burden was on me. "We've been unhappy for a long time, Logan. You're comfortable. Predictable. Chase makes me feel alive again." Alive. That word stung, not because it was true, but because it was lazy. Women like Ashley always went for that cliché when they ran out of real reasons. "You're boring. He's exciting." Translation: I'm selfish, and he's convenient. I leaned back, calm as stone. "So I'm a placeholder." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." I smiled. "I'm not dramatic. I'm precise. See, I build machines for a living. High-end equipment that carves titanium to within half a human hair's width. I don't do sloppy. I don't guess. And I sure as hell don't let things slide." While Ashley thought I was sulking these past few months, I'd been preparing. Patterns. Receipts. Hotel charges. Even her late-night work calls backed up to the family iPad she thought was just for Netflix. She thought I was slow. She used to joke in front of friends, "Logan moves like he's buffering." They'd laugh. I'd smile. Because slowness isn't weakness. It's precision. I folded my arms and let the silence eat at her. People like her always rush to fill silence. They hate the mirror it holds up. Sure enough, she snapped. "What? Are you going to divorce me now? Take the house. You can't even prove half of what you think you know." I almost laughed. "Can't prove it?" That's when I realized she had no idea. She thought I was just wounded, just catching up. But the truth? I was already ahead. I stood, leaned in close, and whispered, "Ashley, when men like me get betrayed, we don't fall apart. We collect evidence." Her smirk faltered. Just a flicker. But I saw it. And in that flicker, I knew. I had her exactly where I wanted. If there's a drawer in my office Ashley never paid attention to. She thought it just held old tax forms and half-dead pens. Truth is, it held the only thing in this house that was really mine. A small oak box I'd carved after retiring from the Navy. Smooth edges, brass hinges, lined with felt. It was supposed to hold cufflinks. Instead, it became my vault. My sanctuary. My reminder that a man only loses when he forgets he can choose not to play. That night, after Ashley stormed upstairs muttering something about me being pathetic, I poured myself a glass of water, walked into the office, and slid open the drawer. The oak box sat there, simple and quiet, waiting. I lifted the lid. Empty. For now. But I had plans. See, Ashley thought she was clever, but betrayal is sloppy. It leaves fingerprints. A perfume charge on the wrong credit card. A dinner receipt without the tip filled in, because she never knew Chase's handwriting would stick out like neon if anyone checked. Even the way she suddenly turned her phone upside down when it buzzed. I cataloged everything. Screenshots, emails, GPS pings from her real estate meetings that just happened to match hotel check-ins. All of it neatly labeled, dated, backed up in 3 places. USB drive, cloud account under a fake name, and 1 hard copy file set. Tucked in a manila folder I labeled with the sweetest bit of irony I could think of, anniversary. The oak box would be for the final copy. The one I'd hand her when the time was right. Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't rushing toward divorce. No, that'd be too easy for her. People like Ashley thrive on victimhood. She'd spin it into a sob story. Poor woman trapped in a loveless marriage, forced to find joy in the arms of another. I could already hear her crocodile tears in court, see her crocodile smile in the mirror after she cashed the settlement check. That wasn't going to happen. I wanted her to sit in the home she thought she owned, drink from the wine she thought she deserved, drive the car she thought she won, and feel the walls slowly closing in. Because I wasn't leaving quietly. I was staying. Until every ounce of her smugness turned to panic. The first step was small. In marriages, power is hidden in paperwork. Mortgages, accounts, insurance policies. Ashley never paid attention to those things. Numbers bored her. That was my department. So I started shifting. Not dramatically, just tidying. I moved a little cash into an account under my name only. I rerouted some bills so they stopped auto-drafting from our joint account and started hitting my private one. Nothing she'd notice right away, but enough to make a crack in the facade. Next, I made a call to Marcus, my lawyer. He's a calm man, voice like gravel, the type who wears the same tie every day and wins cases by boring the other side into mistakes. I told him what I had. He whistled. "Logan," he said, "you've got her cornered. You want to go in hot?" "No," I replied. "I want her to feel the cold first." He chuckled. "Slow burn. I like it." We set the groundwork: contingencies, property division drafts, custody of assets. Custody of kids wasn't an issue. We never had any. Ashley always said children would ruin her figure. I used to laugh it off. Now it just sounded prophetic. The second step was social. See, Ashley prided herself on appearances. Wine nights with the neighbors. Instagram posts about her supportive husband. PTA volunteering even though we didn't have kids in the school, just so she could be photographed handing out cookies. I started showing up without her, quietly dropping little hints in conversation. "Yeah, Ashley's been working late again," I'd say with a smile. "She must really love those conferences." Or, "Funny, she keeps forgetting which hotel she's at. Maybe I should buy her a map." I never accused her directly. I just planted seeds. And people talk. Oh, do they talk? By the time she noticed the shift in how neighbors looked at her, it wouldn't be because of me. It would be because she had already betrayed herself, and I just made sure the echo carried. One night, maybe a week later, she waltzed into the bedroom in that silk robe she always wore when she wanted to play the doting wife. She sat on the edge of the bed, twirling her hair, trying to act like nothing had happened. "You didn't say good night," she said. "I figured you were tired of touching me," I replied, calm, even smiling. Her eyes narrowed. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I leaned forward slightly. "Because men like me don't need second chances. We need evidence." She froze, just for a second. Then she laughed, too loud, too forced. "God, Logan, you sound paranoid. Are you recording me right now?" I smiled again. "Wouldn't you like to know? That's the thing about leverage. It isn't just having it. It's letting them wonder how much of it you've got." After she fell asleep that night, I sat at my desk, lit only by the glow of the monitor. Her snores echoed faintly down the hall. I opened the folder marked June Justice. Screenshots, emails, photos, all lined up like soldiers waiting for inspection. I thought about deleting them, about confronting her directly, ending it clean. But then I looked at the oak box, still empty, still waiting. And I knew, no, clean wasn't enough. Ashley had humiliated me in public. She'd smiled at me across a restaurant table while another man declared ownership of my life. She'd paraded her betrayal like it was a trophy. No, her ending wouldn't be clean. It would be surgical, precise, unexpected. I slid the latest batch of screenshots into the June Justice folder, encrypted the drive, and dropped a copy into the oak box. Then I closed the lid. Not yet full, but fuller than before. And as I did, I whispered to the quiet office, to the empty hallway, maybe even to her sleeping form down the hall. "Patience, Ashley. Every queen thinks she's untouchable, until the board shifts and the king makes his move." If marriage is a stage, then Ashley was an actress who thought she was still getting standing ovations. What she didn't realize was that the audience had already left, and the only one left in the theater was me, watching her rehearse lines she didn't even believe anymore. She started performing harder after that night at the kitchen table. Breakfast kisses. "How was your day?" Phone calls. She even cooked dinner once, which would have been sweet if I hadn't noticed the Uber Eats receipt in the trash for the exact same lasagna. It was all for show, and I let her have it. Smiled. Played along. Because the best way to dismantle an actress is not to storm the stage. It's to quietly pull the ropes until the backdrop comes crashing down mid-monologue. The next step in my plan required patience. Precision. I started small. Step 1. Financial tripwire. Ashley loved spending money. Clothes, spa days, work retreats. She never checked statements, because she assumed I'd handle the boring part. She was right. But this time, I handled it with purpose. I rerouted our credit alerts to my phone only. Then I set up soft transaction limits. Nothing that would stop her purchases. No, I wasn't about to tip her off, but enough to flag unusual activity. The first alert came on a Tuesday. $487. Burstone Hotel. The same one where I'd already cataloged her rendezvous with Chase. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. I just printed the receipt and filed it under Act 2. Step 2. Social shifts. Ashley lived for approval. Likes on Instagram, compliments at wine night, neighbors fawning over her perfect life. So I started to dent the armor, subtly. At a barbecue, someone asked where Ashley was. I smiled. Probably another late work meeting at the Burstone. She's practically a shareholder there. Laughter followed, half awkward, half knowing. Not accusatory, not slanderous, just enough to plant seeds. People talk. And soon, she'd start to feel the shift. It didn't take long. One Thursday evening, she came home earlier than usual, storming into the kitchen with her phone clutched like a weapon. "Logan," she snapped. "What exactly have you been saying to people?" I looked up from the paper, calm. "About what?" "Don't play dumb." She slammed her phone on the counter. Messages lit up the screen. "Is everything okay with you and Logan?" Saw him at the barbecue. He seemed off. "Ashley, is it true what people are saying?" She glared at me. "Are you trying to ruin my reputation?" I set the paper down, folded it neatly. "Ashley, if people are asking questions, maybe it's because you've been giving them answers." Her face twisted. "You're unbelievable." "No," I corrected. "I'm precise." She stormed off, muttering curses under her breath. I almost laughed. This wasn't rage, it was fear, dressed in denial. She was starting to realize her little empire of perception had cracks in the walls. The phone call. A week later, I got a call from Chase. Bold, I'll give him that. He used a blocked number, but I recognized the voice instantly, smug, smooth, like a man who thought he'd won something worth bragging about. "Logan," he said, dragging out the syllables like we were old friends. "Look, I don't want this to get messy. Ashley and we care about each other. You need to back off. Sign the papers when she gives them to you, and we'll make this clean." I smiled into the receiver, even though he couldn't see it. "Clean?" "Yeah," he said. "You don't want this getting ugly." I let a beat of silence hang in the air. Then I replied, "Chase, let me give you a piece of advice. Men like you mistake comfort for victory. But you're walking into a chess game with a man who built the board." He chuckled nervously. "You trying to scare me?" "No," I said softly. "I'm trying to warn you." And then I hung up. The night of the robe. 2 nights later, Ashley tried again. She came downstairs in that silk robe, pretending everything was normal. She leaned against the counter, sipping wine. "You know," she said, tilting her head, "you could make this easier on yourself. Divorce doesn't have to be ugly. We can split things, move on, and maybe, someday, you'll thank me." I stared at her. "Thank you." She smiled. "For giving you a chance to start over." That was her angle. She wanted me to play the grateful, abandoned husband. To nod and accept crumbs while she skipped off with Chase, playing victim to anyone who asked. I set my glass down and leaned forward. "Ashley, when a man spends years building a foundation, he doesn't thank the earthquake that tries to tear it down. He rebuilds. Stronger, smarter, and sometimes he makes sure the earthquake remembers its place." Her smirk wavered. For the first time, I saw the hint of doubt in her eyes. The box grows heavier. That night, I returned to the oak box. Added the hotel receipt, the screenshots, even printed out Chase's call log from her synced iPad. One by one, the evidence stacked up. The box grew heavier. And with each piece, so did my resolve. I didn't want to just win. I wanted her to feel the ground shift beneath her feet. To realize too late that the story she thought she was writing wasn't hers anymore. The unexpected ally. Funny thing about betrayal, it creates allies in the strangest places. One afternoon, I got a text from Celeste, one of Ashley's realtor friends. "Logan, call me." When I did, she sighed heavily. "Look, I'm not trying to meddle. But Ashley's been running her mouth. Bragging. Saying she's finally moving on from you. That Chase is better. That you'll just roll over when the time comes." I stayed quiet. "Honestly," Celeste continued, "it disgusts me. You've always treated her well. People notice, Logan, more than she thinks." I thanked her genuinely. Hung up, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to satisfaction. Because I didn't need to destroy Ashley's image. She was doing it herself. All I had to do was make sure the spotlight stayed on. That evening, Ashley strutted into the kitchen with her usual arrogance. But when she glanced at me, something flickered, something small, almost imperceptible. Was it doubt? Fear? Or just the faint recognition that the man she thought was her placeholder had become something else entirely? I didn't answer her questions. I didn't argue. I just smiled. Because patience is a weapon. And mine was almost sharp enough. You can always tell when a liar starts to lose control. They double down. They get louder, sloppier, desperate to patch the holes in a sinking ship with duct tape and denial. Ashley was no different. The more she felt the ground shift, the harder she tried to perform. She posted more on Instagram, selfies with fake captions about self-care, photos of wine glasses with hashtags like #strongwoman and #newbeginnings. She even went so far as to post a picture of us at dinner one night, smiling together, as if our marriage was some Hallmark card. I didn't argue. I smiled for the camera, because I knew every picture she took now was evidence. Evidence that she was trying to maintain her mask, while I quietly pulled the strings behind the curtain. The financial domino. It started with the mortgage payment. Ashley strutted into the living room one evening, waving a letter. "Logan, the bank made a mistake. They sent us a notice about a late payment. Obviously, you'll call them, right?" I glanced at the letter, calm. "Strange," I said. "I'll check on it." What she didn't know was that I'd already rerouted the mortgage into an account under my name. The payment wasn't late. It was just no longer joint. The house she thought was half hers, slowly, legally, becoming mine alone. "Relax, Ashley," I said with a smile. "I'll take care of it." She rolled her eyes, muttered something about me being slow, but there was tension in her voice, a hint of unease. She didn't know it yet, but the walls she loved to decorate with overpriced art pieces were no longer hers to claim. The neighbors noticed. By late summer, the neighbors had caught on. Not from me directly. I'd never once accused Ashley outright in public, but whispers spread faster than wildfire in a cul-de-sac. At a block party, one of the wives asked casually, "Ashley, weren't you supposed to be at a conference in Dallas last month? I swear I saw pictures of you at the Burstone that weekend." Ashley laughed, too loud, her voice cracking at the edges. "Oh, that. Just a little mix-up. You know how social media is." But the neighbors didn't buy it. They never do. And I stood there, sipping my drink, smiling faintly. Because reputation, once cracked, doesn't glue back together. The lawyers check in. Marcus called one morning, his voice steady as always. "Logan, you've got her cornered 6 ways from Sunday. We can file whenever you're ready." "Not yet," I told him. "Not yet. I want her to feel it first." He chuckled. "You're cold, Logan. Cold wins cases." The phone again. Ashley wasn't stupid. Arrogant, yes. Reckless, absolutely. But not stupid. She must have noticed the shift, the way people stopped fawning, the way bills started misplacing themselves. So one night, she changed her phone password, sat on the couch, tapping furiously, locking down her secrets. She looked at me afterward, smug. "What? You don't need access to my phone anyway." "Boundaries, Logan. Ever heard of them?" I smiled. Of course. What she didn't realize was that her boundaries didn't matter. The iPad in the guest room still synced automatically. Every text, every photo, every call log, all of it still flowing quietly into my files. So when Chase texted her, "I booked the room for Tuesday, same place." I saw it before she even packed her overnight bag. The Tuesday dinner. Tuesday night came. She left the house in a dress she hadn't worn for me in years, humming like a schoolgirl, spritzing on that perfume that didn't belong to our marriage. I didn't stop her. I didn't even ask where she was going. I just nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Have fun." The look she gave me, half smug, half relieved, was priceless. She thought she was still in control, thought she'd fooled me. But while she was at the Burstone, tangled up in her own delusion, I was at home printing copies of her texts, screenshots of hotel reservations, even pulling security footage Marcus had helped me subpoena quietly. By the time she returned, slipping off her heels at 2 a.m. like a teenager sneaking back into her parents' house, I already had the entire night documented in 3 formats. The oak box grew heavier again. The confrontation that wasn't. A few nights later, she tried to corner me. We were in the kitchen, me buttering toast, her scrolling her phone. She set it down, folded her arms. "Logan," she said, her tone sharp, "I know what you're doing." I raised an eyebrow. "Do you?" "You're sabotaging me," she snapped. "Talking to the neighbors, planting ideas, trying to make me look bad. You think you're clever, but you're just bitter." I spread jam across the toast, calm as ever. "Ashley, you give me too much credit. People make their own judgments." Her eyes narrowed. "So you're denying it?" I smiled faintly. "I'm not denying anything. I'm just patient." She huffed, grabbed her phone, and stormed upstairs. I finished my breakfast in peace. The invitation. Then came the twist I didn't expect. A week later, Ashley waltzed into the living room with a grin plastered across her face. Chase and I are hosting a dinner, she announced. For friends. For closure. Closure? I asked. Yes, she said smugly. We want to do this the right way. Civil, you'll come, of course. I studied her carefully. This wasn't an olive branch. This was theater. She wanted to parade me in front of everyone, the defeated husband sitting politely while she played the victorious new bride-in-waiting. I nodded slowly. Of course, Ashley. I'll be there. And in that moment, I decided something. That dinner would not be her stage. It would be mine. That night, I opened the oak box. It was nearly full now. Receipts, screenshots, statements, photos. The weight of months of betrayal, neatly organized. I set my hand on the lid and whispered, "Showtime." The night of Ashley's closure dinner felt less like a social gathering and more like a funeral rehearsal, hers, though she didn't know it yet. She spent the whole afternoon preparing. New dress, new perfume, pacing the hallway like she was running lines for a Broadway audition. Every detail screamed, I'm in control. I'm the star. I played along, wore my navy blazer, polished my shoes, smiled in the mirror. Not because I cared to impress. No, because appearances matter when you're setting a stage. The dinner was at the Burstone Hotel. Of course, the same hotel where she'd conducted her little escapades. Poetic symmetry. When I arrived, the room was filled with familiar faces, neighbors, friends, even a few of Ashley's coworkers. Chase stood at her side, smug grin plastered across his face, arm looped casually around her waist, as if he'd already inherited the life I'd built. Ashley greeted me with exaggerated warmth. Logan, you came. I kissed her on the cheek. Wouldn't miss it. The dinner unfolded like theater. Chase told stories. Ashley laughed too loud, and the audience clapped at the right beats. Every time someone glanced at me, I just smiled. Calm, patient. And then, after dessert, Ashley cleared her throat. Everyone, thank you for coming. We wanted to share something important. Chase and I, well, we found happiness together. And though things didn't work out between Logan and me, we're moving forward with respect and grace. Polite applause followed. Chase beamed. Ashley looked triumphant. That was my cue. I stood, holding a glass of water, and smiled. May I say a few words? The room hushed. Ashley blinked, clearly not expecting me to participate. Of course, she said carefully. I looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. Marriage is about trust. And sometimes, when that trust is broken, you're left with choices. You can lash out. You can collapse. Or, I paused, letting the silence hang. You can collect the truth. From my jacket, I pulled a folder. Manila. Thick. Heavy. I laid it on the table. Inside this folder, I continued, is every receipt, every photo, every text message Ashley and Chase have exchanged over the past 6 months. Hotel reservations. Late-night calls. Even a few selfies they forgot were syncing to the family iPad. Gasps echoed around the table. Chase's grin evaporated. Ashley went pale. And because I believe in transparency, I said, I've already shared copies with a few people here tonight. Marcus, my attorney. Celeste, who's been kind enough to offer character statements. And I pointed toward the projection screen in the corner, the hotel staff. Right on cue, the projector lit up. Screenshots, receipts, photos. Ashley's voice notes giggling into Chase's ear. One by one, her secrets became public property. The room was silent. Dead silent. I raised my glass. To honesty. And I drank. Ashley's jaw worked, but no words came out. Chase muttered something about privacy and stormed out. The guests sat frozen, unsure whether to look at her or me. I smiled politely, gathered my folder, and left. The performance was over. The actress had been stripped of her costume. And the best part? The curtain had only just fallen on Act 1. The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, Ashley's Instagram was flooded with comments. Not the supportive kind she loved. No, these were brutal. Wow, really? With his coworker? Logan deserved better. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Friends withdrawing invites. Colleagues whispering. Even her own family calling with disappointment in their voices. I didn't need to lift a finger. She had burned her own reputation. I had simply held up a mirror. At home, the silence was deafening. Ashley tried to break it with half-hearted apologies, then with anger. You humiliated me, she shrieked one night. No, I corrected calmly. You humiliated yourself. I just gave the audience a front row seat. She glared, shaking with fury. But the fight had drained from her eyes. The legal strike. Marcus filed the papers within days. Every asset meticulously divided. Except I had receipts showing her misuse of joint funds, proof of her affair, and the mortgage already transferred into my name. The house, the accounts, the cars, every major piece tilted in my favor. Ashley tried to fight. Her lawyer sputtered about emotional distress and privacy violations. Marcus didn't even break a sweat. Judge, he said simply, my client didn't create the evidence. He just documented what already existed. The judge nodded. Proceed. Ashley's face crumbled. The social collapse. The once proud queen of wine nights and PDA appearances vanished from social circles. Neighbors stopped inviting her. Friends avoided her. Even Chase disappeared. Turns out, he wasn't interested in being the co-star of a scandal when the spotlight got too hot. Ashley called him one night while I sat in the office, the iPad syncing quietly. Chase, please, we can fix this. Click. He hung up. Her sob echoed down the hall. I didn't move. Didn't comfort her. Just closed the oak box, heavier now with divorce filings, and whispered to myself, patience pays. Everyone expected me to throw her out immediately. To claim victory, walk away, and never look back. But no, that would have been predictable. Instead, I let her stay. Yes, you heard that right. She stayed in the house she no longer owned, sleeping in the guest room, wandering the halls like a ghost in a museum of her own mistakes. Every time she passed a photo on the wall, every time the mail arrived in my name alone, every time a neighbor avoided her eyes, she felt it. And I made sure she kept feeling it. I canceled her gym membership, quietly froze her credit cards, sold her beloved Range Rover to cover legal fees. Each move precise, controlled, leaving her stranded in a life that once revolved around appearances. She begged at first, then cursed, then went silent. But silence, too, is a form of defeat. The final blow. One evening, she cornered me in the kitchen. Logan, she whispered, voice trembling, please. I made a mistake. We can fix this. I set down my coffee, looked her dead in the eye, and said, Ashley, some mistakes you live with. Others, you live in. Her face broke. And I knew the time had come. I waited until the divorce was finalized, until every asset was legally secured, every account closed in her name, until Chase had disappeared, her friends had abandoned her, and her reputation was ashes. Then, one quiet Sunday morning, I placed the oak box on the kitchen table. Full now. Heavy. Inside were the receipts, the photos, the texts, the court documents, her entire downfall in one place. She sat across from me, hollow-eyed, clutching a mug she didn't even sip from. What's this? She asked weakly. Your legacy, I said. She opened the box, rifling through the evidence, her hands trembling. You kept all of this? She whispered. I nodded. Every lie deserves a record. She looked up, tears brimming. So what now? You've won. You've taken everything. What else could you possibly want from me? I leaned back, calm, steady. Nothing. This isn't for me. It's for you. She frowned. For me? Yes, I said. So every time you try to rewrite the story, every time you think about playing the victim, you'll have this box. A reminder that I was always one step ahead. I stood, left the oak box in front of her, and walked out of the kitchen. Out of the house. Out of the life we once shared. The revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even dramatic. It was surgical, cruel in its precision. Because the cruelest revenge isn't taking everything from someone. It's letting them live surrounded by the wreckage they created, knowing they'll never rebuild. And with that, the oak box closed.